First of all, before we jump in, how's everyone feeling? Loving the conference today? Awesome. There have been no shortage of good talks. As was introduced, our talk is Generative AI Agents, Jack of all trades, or Master of one. Essentially, how do you structure your agent to be effective in the current year? We've heard a lot about the theory, but not about what it looks like today. I'm Ben McHone. I'm a polyglot software engineer with 10 plus years of experience. I'm a new dad to an almost 1-year-old. And a fun fact, I'm a contributor to multiple open source libraries, including Arise Phoenix, that we're all here today because we know and love.
And I'm Vicky Bang. I'm a software consultant specializing in data and Gen AI. I have a master's in computer science focusing in deep learning model interpretation. And a fun fact from me is that I enjoy walking my cat. So Ben and I were both from Source Allies, an Iowa-based IT consultancy where we work with clients from a wide range of industries such as agriculture, insurance, finance, retail, and manufacturing. We truly pride ourselves as builders who teach, and it's exactly that drive that leads us here. So instead of giving you a dry agenda, we thought about just telling you a story. So every great story has a mission, journey, and test. And that's exactly how we're going to walk you through one of our most advanced Gen AI solution. Not just talking about the architecture and outcome, but also looking at some real challenges we faced, some lesson learned, and also how we earn the trust of the end users. So let's start from the very beginning. This was an internal use case. Our client was not trying to build a new product or a shiny widget to sell. They are trying to help their internal business user to make better decisions. These were the category managers and internal stakeholders asking one-off questions like, what did my sales dip last week? How did my product X perform affect the margin like last quarter? So traditional BI dashboards are great for known questions, but they're just not flexible enough for all these one-off nuanced questions. So they are great for clicks and filters, but they just could not do. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little. It's the end of the day. So people just starts to turn to our human analysts in here, but that creates the bottleneck. With all these ad hoc requests bogging down our human analysts, that diverts their focus from high value work. And so here is where we were brought in. We were not trying to replace traditional BI reporting, as they're still great for standard reporting and tracking. What we built was a Gen AI layer on top, which would answer questions that would usually need you to double click into your your report, and also different slice and dicing your report in multiple ways just to get to one small insight. So what this does is it frees up the data team to continue working on larger scales of innovations instead of getting bogged down with all these ad hoc requests. So that brings us to the first question that we ask in this project. How should I structure my AI? This is not just, how can I use LLM to solve my problems? It's how do I build something that is reliable and useful for people who need it the most? So to answer that question, we started as how most journey do. We started simple. So we give user a way to interact with the data through an LLM-powered data analyst agent. This agent has just enough tools to get it useful right out of the box. Tools such as describing tables, executing queries, just searching products. And behind the scene, it's a React-style agent, a single agent setup that reason through tasks step by step. So you have your usual start where users will pass in a question, and our agent will get to decide if it wants to go through its tools and use whatever tools that it needs to form a sufficient answer. And if it decides that it does not need any tool, it will just pass back the response to our user.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead. All right, this brings us to our next critical question during this project. How do we know that AI is successful? Now, it may come as a surprise to those of you here at the Arise Observe, but evaluations are the answer. So we start every project with a base level set of evaluations. These are the non-negotiables. And we add custom evals as they make sense for our specific use cases. But here, this graph shows just a subset. We are looking at answer correctness. This has been commonly referred to as LLM as a judge today. And early on, before we got all of the data in place, it performed really bad. It was about 30% on a good day, all the way down to 0. And then there's answer similarity. How did our expert 20-year veterans in the industry answer these questions? The important part here is not actually the numbers. It is very easy to have a knee-jerk reaction and say, oh my gosh, we need to rethink everything. But no, this gives us a starting point and somewhere that we can improve. So why are evaluations so important? Because enterprises move at the speed of trust. We heard this from Kathy Baxter, a principal architect at Salesforce. And let's start talking about some of those challenges that you may face when first starting to build agents. The first one is large context doesn't always equate to effective use. We started seeing commercial models giving us 1 million tokens of context. But the problem is, if I hand you Harry Potter and ask you a question, who is Snape? I mean, if you aren't familiar with the book, it's going to take you a long time to read that, and you may still get it wrong. The next problem is prompt complexity. We have a tendency to continuously add new ideas and say, if you get this input, perform this way. If you get this input, perform that way. But just like my almost 1-year-old, I can't make the instructions too complex or it all falls apart. In here, like with my son, I can't tell him, put away your toys. I have to show him, no, we have to put the blocks in the bin, we have to put the bin back with the toys, and then we have to go up to bed. And then finally, once we figure out that we do need to show those examples, there's a tendency of providing many, many few-shot examples. For those that may not be familiar, few-shot examples are question-answer pairs that show an agent how to perform a task as if it was the one that completed those tasks. The problem with this is that increases our tokens, and I will refer you to the last 2 slides of that increasing complexity, increasing the actual context stuffing. And so you may be asking, Ben, this sounds like so many issues. How do we actually approach it? Well, I'm glad that you asked. So taming context windows, we have 3 go-to answers to this. Step 1, build the purpose-built tools. Don't provide a browser agent or a database agent, just a browser tool or just a general select from database tool if you can help it. Those specific tools help an agent be much more specific in its asks and can abstract away many of the pain points that you'll run into. Now, dynamic system prompt generation using agentic RAG, this may also be referred to as in-context learning. Essentially, we gave the experts, the data analysts, the tools to say, give a question and query. We will provide that to the agent only when that's necessary. And then if all else fails, go back to the good old times of 2023 and summarize that conversation up until this point aggressively. This will give us a small enough context that those irrelevant details can be filtered out by the AI. Now with these changes, let's take a look at where our evaluations are lying. We can see a very large jump. We don't even see 30% on the graph any longer. Our answer similarity, that tone, is up about 95% fairly consistently. We see some dips here and there, but that blue line, answer correctness, while it may not be stable, is now hovering between 80 and 95%. This is a giant leap from where we once were. I will pass back over to Vicky to continue talking about how we made that even better.
All right, this chapter is where things start to get real. This is where edge cases start to show up and where we'll see how we earn the trust of user or lost it. So as we start testing our agent with more business heavy question, we see that it's still struggling. Questions like, what is pizza? So we are from Iowa. We know that's not a typo. That's breakfast pizza. It's pizza with eggs, cheese, bacon, or sausage. It's Midwestern, is iconic, and is sacred. But to our bot, this is total gibberish. So we see once we start evaluating our agent with a blend of known industry standard and company-specific terminology, it's struggling to maintain accuracy over time. So we start breaking things up. Instead of having our data analysts handle every single question, we added another agent that is the business term agent. Its sole focus is just to provide more context on business terms to the agent. And we also have a supervisor agent that would decide which sub-worker to go to and also handle the interaction between users and agents. And with that, here's the payoff. Same question, and this time it answers correctly. This is achieved not because we give it more token, but it's just a single shift in architecture that made this happen. And so how this help? It helps us trim down the context size. Since each of the agent has, we gave it a separation of duty, so each of them has a clear purpose. We are able to provide simpler instruction to each of them. And that is really the difference between having one agent that handles everything and more agent that can separate up the workload. With more agent that can separate the workload, really it's more sufficient, effective. And we don't see this only as a technical solution. It's also, we see this in the office settings. Let's say you run a small local ice cream shop. You probably don't need a team of 5 data analysts to help you figure out what you need, how sales are like. But if you're a Fortune 500 company, you can imagine how big the team should be. So why only have one agent for your AI if you have a harder workload? And just like office setting, our agents should be able to collaborate and talk to each other, and supervisor will, again, handle the interaction between user and the team. That opens up to so many possibilities. If you need an HR policy agent, just add one. If you need a legal team, just add an agent. This gives you scalability, modularity, separation of concern, and the best part is you don't have to throw away what you have built because everything is transferable.
And the reason that all of these evaluations and segmenting our AIs is so important is we heard from Databricks last year at their AI Summit that 85% of AI applications are not in production. This application is not part of that 85%. It's in production and in use. That's nuts. We've heard from Greg Brockman, president of OpenAI, that evals are surprisingly often all that you need. That holds true. And the answer to the original question, should a generative AI agent be a jack of all trades or master of one, is, like many things in tech, it depends. Your evaluations will tell you when that change needs to happen. We build the trust with our partners and in the solution through observability using Phoenix. Thank you, Arise. We build the confidence and the reliability through our evaluations over time. At the time of building the slide deck, we were at 95% both in answer correctness and in answer similarity. And we build transparency through a combination of those two tools. Now with that, are there any questions?
Amazing, thank you. Come in here with the microphone.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the presentation. So you talked about multi-agents, lots of special purpose agents. Maybe each agent performs a specific task. So I assume that you're talking about an architecture where each agent will serve many, many different users, right? If there's a legal agent, then maybe everybody in the legal team, including some other members of other team, can use that agent. Now, how do they inherit permissions? If I don't have user-specific agent, I have general purpose agent that does specific tasks independent of user identity. How does your architecture handle permissions?
That's a great question. The way that we handle that is that we use the same industry standard technology that we've been using for years. Our team, we have standardized on OAuth and OIDC permissioning. These are standard on any enterprise API. And if that agent needs to talk to another agent, it actually uses that user's token and sends the request along so that a frontline worker at a store isn't getting access to sensitive legal documentation, as an example.
Thank you. Great talk. It's really nice to see the practical implication here and implementation. I have one question regarding the metrics. Sometimes with agents, they execute very complex tasks, and it takes the human minutes to reproduce the results and to confirm the results. How did you establish the ground truth in your metrics? How did you showed the 95%, but like who developed the ground truth, and how long did it take you? What's the process? Can you share a few details there?
Absolutely. So the way that we develop our ground truth answers for the evaluations is largely mirroring what those business processes look like today. That means working with the category managers, the business stakeholders, as well as understanding what are their needs, what questions are they going to be asking. And then we entered that same pipeline. We started talking with the business analysts. We started figuring out what are the ground truth correct answers. And from there, we manually built out queries. We started understanding their data lake from a human perspective so that we could then build out and teach an agent the same level of context required to answer those same questions. Vicky, do you have anything to add to that one?
No, it's just when we started the project, before building anything, what really important is talking to the subject matter expert, like figuring out what really is the ground truth, what is the golden answer. From there, then we start building the ground truth evaluations, start testing the agent with what we expect it to should be able to answer.